Usin from the main powerful rank. Well, together with Pitach and not from the main Juan, we continue to introduce you, dear viewers, to the news of Ukraine. And there are a lot of news piled up here, so let's get right to covering them. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel before we start. Well, if you've already done that, then let's begin. Look, there was a mass clash between civilians and draft officials in Ternopil. We're actually talking about a local uprising here. Well, you can't really call it a clash anymore, because quite a lot of people came out, and by the way, they weren't afraid of these draft enforcers. And you could already call this, well, a kind of mini-revolution, although it's just within one district, but still. Take a look at how it happened. Of course, there's quite a bit of violence here, but still. This is how it all started. So, now I'll tell you what happened. But it's really interesting here. Look how many people came out. And the draft officials, you could say, were in trouble. The police arrived, they were trying to explain something, and they even showed up with their pepper spray. But it didn't work out for them. They weren't lucky, so to speak. And then later in the evening, when they arrived, it was almost like they came in armored vehicles. Over there, some kind of structures are already reinforced and armored personnel carriers are moving, I think. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert, but it's something like that. Look at the crowd of people coming. There are hundreds of people here, not dozens, but hundreds. And they're all already walking down the road and protesting, supposedly, it seems, against, as someone might say, Cherukranets Slavilia. Which one, the Manhunter? Naturally, those very draft enforcers? You can see all of this in full. By the way, I can show this video without any problem. No problem. No problem. Well, as we can see, people are walking and chanting all sorts of bad words. Bad, of course, for those they're directed at. That's who this message is for. And I don't think this will end well, because cases like this are happening more and more often all over the country. Whether it's in Kiev, Kharkiv, Odessa, or now in Ternopil. Well, overall, none of this is good for those in power. To watch the first video, the one where they're smashing up those military recruitment officers and roughing them up a bit, subscribe to my Telegram channel. All those videos are there. Just point your smartphone or tablet camera at this QR code and you'll get where you need to go. Or there's a direct link in the description of this video. Just click on it and go. Here, no smartphones or tablets are needed. What happened? The manhunters, who are mistakenly called Territorial Recruitment Center servicemen here, started it. Those same manhunters, together with the cops, came and started, as we are told, identifying people who might be evading their military duty. Well, in other words, behaving as usual, walking around, sneaking, sniffing around, beating people and all that. During a conversation with one of the men, a group of people began to approach the recruitment center vehicle. They got into a scuffle with the representatives of the recruitment center and started smashing the car. This has never happened before, and here we go again when the manhunters smash cars, cut off cyclists, run them over, break the arms and legs of normal people. Nothing happens. None of that counts. But as soon as someone started smashing the manhunter's car, that's when everything started. And I'm pretty sure that by the time this video comes out, or maybe a little later, there will already be scathing posts on Facebook from all sorts of Georgians, Afghans, and other representatives of the Ukrainian nation. They'll start saying that you need to put a bullet in the knee, then in the forehead. This is the general. I've already shown him to you. I'm sick of him. How many times do I have to show him? But he stated that those who attack the recruitment center should first get a bullet in the knee, and then in the forehead. This was said by General Krivonos, the crowned hero who is now sitting in Warsaw and talking about draft dodgers. And Juan and I are puzzled about this, because it's one thing to talk about punishing those who attack the draft enforcers. Like, okay, let's punish them somehow. And it's another thing to actually threaten people with torture. Where have you ever seen that in a country governed by the rule of law? For some prominent figure, and this ex-general apparently considers himself one, to say, let's shoot people in the knees. That's just insane. Then what do we have here? After a while, an investigative team and additional cop units arrived at the scene and managed to stop the conflict. And how did they manage to stop it? Well, they walked around the man who they were trying to draft and haul off in a van, and they were able to free him. They smashed the car and once again gave those military recruitment officers a bit more grief right there in front of the crowd. And they quickly started rescuing those recruitment officers. At present, law enforcement officers are identifying all participants in the incident, as well as the extent of the damage and bodily injuries sustained by the victims during the clash. And what are they saying at the recruitment office? Well, of course, they're saying, "Oh, we didn't do anything. They're so bad. They came and, they stole valuables. And what a nightmare." This immediately reminds me of the Maskey show, if you remember, that funny show, with Daliev, who was the head of the whole project. And there was an episode called Maskey in Court. I think there were 2 or 3 parts. And in those episodes, the victim was telling about how they saw what happened. There was a guy who came in, got beaten up, and that's exactly how he told the story. The thug, the one who beat everyone up, was saying, like, I went in there, and that guy, the one who got beaten up, actually hit me first. And then there was the waitress, sorry to say, she was raped. That's how they showed it. There was this waitress. And there was something else. Well, in general, that bandit turned out to be the one who suffered the most, and in the end, the masked guys ended up in court too, and that's where they told the whole story. Well, it reminds me of pretty much the same thing. Only back then it was all funny. But now it's not funny somehow, because suddenly the script of that very movie, the well-known Servant of the People, for which I think Zelensky still gets paid, is coming true. And the whole masked man scenario, somehow it turned from fantasy into reality, and into a really dark reality. Absolutely. But let's move on. What have those characters from Ukraine achieved, the ones who said, "We'll keep warm even if there's no heat, it's not scary in winter"? If there won't be any, God willing, we'll keep warm with the heat from the burned down Wildberries and Ozon marketplaces in Russia. Now what? Now they're smashing up Epicenter stores, now they're smashing up Auchan stores, now they're smashing up Metro stores. And also there's this marketplace, I don't know, it's Mayday, Modo, however it's pronounced. You can let your imagination run wild here. They also started smashing up warehouses. After Russian shelling of logistics facilities in Ukraine, the company is laying off some employees. And they say that such decisions are never easy. At the same time, today they are necessary to adapt to the new conditions, maintain business stability, and continue our work. The company stated that the process will be as fair as possible, and here, on August 4th, they reported that a massive strike was carried out overnight, and all of this was destroyed. All these powerful leaders keep saying, well, we're just keeping ourselves warm with wildberries. But now members of the ruling party have appeared, saying that nothing good will come of this. Honestly, I forgot what this deputy's name is. Can you? She sometimes says all sorts of nonsense. But here she's talking about what will happen to business in Ukraine if this continues.
Now we're going to say, well, now you have to look for where to get war risk insurance yourselves. For example, Kyiv is getting insurance.
We're talking about insurance for businesses against external factors. Previously, this was considered force majeure, basically things like earthquakes, floods, or attacks from another side. And now you have to take the risk and insure against all these risks.
Commercial insurance companies offer insurance with a premium rate starting from around 10% and higher. And if we talk about Dnipro, it's from 15% and higher. The Kyiv region has also become a risk zone, and we can see why. There too, it's from 13%. Look, all of this is unaffordable for businesses. And the reaction will be that everything that hasn't been lost will be sold off. And then there will be emptiness.
So she's saying that what hasn't been sold yet on the marketplaces themselves, let me put it in simple terms, as far as I understand, will be sold from the warehouses that are still intact, those very warehouses. And then everything just stops working, Rosetka, Auchan, and everything else. Out of the blue, as they say, even though in supermarkets, at least in Kyiv, some shelves with certain goods are already empty. And yes, there are signs saying that Russia has destroyed things. And as a result, you, dear customers, don't get what you wanted. But this doesn't help morale or anything else. Next, it's what I showed you in a recent video. I think it was the day before yesterday, about Shmihal, this very greatest leader, the most effective manager. And he was rambling there about protecting infrastructure, like, oh, we're going to take on the first level, then the second and the fourth. A year or a year and a half before him, that Afghan guy Mustafa Nayem was rambling, who was responsible for protecting the energy infrastructure. It was destroyed. Nayem has been fired now, by the way. His brother is protecting that wise, corrupt woman who was looking for money for another corrupt official, Halushchenko. Now she's looking for money for herself. And in all of these, in every corruption scheme, there's this Masi Nayem, Mustafa's brother. Well, a talented family, you could say. Holos was joined by this very Shmihal in his military shirt. And he said that the authorities would build a concrete shelter, purchase equipment, and report on the protection of the substation. By the way, he was standing right across from the substation, and there was no protection visible, at least in the photos I saw. Maybe it's buried deep underground somewhere, like some kind of the Prytulas satellite, somewhere far out in space, probably already near Betelgeuse, studying it. Yeah. That very satellite. But maybe somewhere deep underground near the core, there are also those protective structures for the energy infrastructure. But saying that nothing will help. Shmihal says that our energy workers and engineers have created a unique engineering protection system that helps protect energy facilities. Even after ballistic missiles hit, the damage is repaired within a week, not months. Can you imagine what an achievement that is? Some turbine gets bombed, and then within a week they immediately put it back together, apparently from pieces, glued it with super glue. Or like those Japanese, they have a special art where they take some ceramic item, break it with a hammer, then glue it back together and cover the seams with gold. I forgot what that art is called, but it exists. Apparently, Shmihal probably imagined something like that out of ignorance. And in Warhammer 40k, there were some artifacts from the Dark Age which were a kind of technological embryo. And when it was activated, it would grow into either a factory or a military plant or something else. Well, apparently Shmihal has played too much or watched too much or whatever is going on with him. I don't know. We're told here that he was talking about all these levels, and even Mustafa Nayem talked about them. But a real specialist is telling us this. The director of energy and infrastructure programs says that he doesn't know of any facilities that can be 100% protected from ballistic missiles. Just imagine this huge thing flying and some kind of defense against it. What are they even talking about? Partial protection is possible. But this primarily concerns key substations, high-voltage substations of the Ukrenergo company, and transformers. At all key substations, we're told, a second engineering level of protection has been built, a concrete shelter for the transformers. But such structures only protect the transformers, not all the equipment. It's impossible to fully secure the facility. The shelter can only withstand certain strikes and makes the enemy's job more difficult, but counting on complete protection of energy facilities for years is an illusion. And as for the large automatic telephone exchanges, big substations in Kyiv, Kharkiv and other cities, it's simply impossible to protect them, because you'd have to protect hectares of land. But how can you bury several hectares of energy infrastructure which has been expanding since the 1930s, then expanded even more later, and now what are you going to do with it? Well, in general, some talented people siphoned off that little protection budget, led by those very same Eastern geniuses. And this is what happened. And on top of that, we're told that without air defense, ground defense is useless. That is, if there's a ballistic missile, it will fly and no one will shoot it down. It's pointless to build any kind of structures at all. They say that effective protection has to be provided through electronic warfare systems. They're cobbling something together, building things, trying to make it work. Nothing good is expected, and here are the results. For example, in the Dnipropetrovsk region, people are being urgently evacuated. There's a powerful explosion and detonation here. Something exploded again. In the village of Peshchanka, Samarovsky district, Dnipropetrovsk region, there was a powerful explosion. As a result, one person was killed and 11 others were injured. And again, something is detonating. Apparently it's another unnamed base. Well, it's clear that some kind of ammunition is detonating there. Just imagine an explosion of that magnitude. Well, here? This is fucking... Well, sorry for the swearing, but for a person who found themselves in such a situation, it's forgivable. He definitely won't be saying, oh, what a surprise, or something like that. So, there's no protection, but things like this will keep happening. And do you know what Zelensky is doing right now? Well, if you think he's sitting there thinking about how to protect the energy infrastructure, he's not. He's just doing PR. Some random boxer came to see him for some unclear reason, and they gave him some dog as a gift. And now this is on every television channel in the country. What is this? Why is... Well, Juan and I are puzzled and don't understand what's going on. I mean, really, what's the point? Some foreign boxer came just to shake hands with this Zelensky and hand him some mud. And the dog is nice. It's not her fault that it turned out this way.
There, in the lady's hands. Well, that's it.
Freya. As you know, air defense. Air defense. So Freya is the goddess of victory.
Well, you need power goggles for this. Because otherwise the video's sheer power makes that dog hard to watch. You can't look at her without tears. She looks sad. I think she already understands what's going on. And her heart sinks, mom, dad, and then they also show the family tree, so it's really powerful. Oh, that's nice.
Your wife will try to kill
Mama, Tato.
No, it's like in Venezuela, where people were starving. Maduro was telling everyone how well he could dance and showing it. There were some dances with him. Of course, I'm not talking about how he was kidnapped by the US. I'm talking about how leaders behave when they're completely disconnected from the nation they're supposed to serve, the nation that put them in power. Well, there you go. Zelensky, people are dying here. People here don't have any money. Here, the infrastructure in your country, in your city, is being destroyed. In your own city, in Kryvyi Rih, there's this ArcelorMittal, a huge enterprise that used to feed, you could say, Ukraine with its taxes and economic achievements. Yes, it's destroyed. Nothing works there anymore. And he's hugging his dog. Wonderful. You won't believe what Zelensky's wife is doing either. She's working on some project called Service Capacities. Or Stickiness, something like that. Dictionary. Let's listen to what she has to say herself. We've created a unique document. It's like a dictionary of resilience. Zelensky had a resilience plan, then some kind of stability plan, then just a plan, well, and now, yeah. And Zelensky's wife is working on projects that are just as essential for the people as his. Well, just imagine, again, people on one hand are starving, thousands are dying because of the war, both direct and indirect losses, and all the rest. Hundreds of thousands of people are fleeing from Ukraine. They are compiling a dictionary of resilience. Have you all completely lost your minds? I don't know, glasses like these aren't enough here. You need a welding helmet like this one here. Super darkened, so that Juan and I aren't pierced by all this all-pervasive powerfulness.
It will contain concepts, practices, models, and frameworks that show specific mechanisms of resilience.
What? Well, it's like... Here's the perfect quote from that meme. You're telling me some nonsense. What methods? Poems? What?
What is this even about? Why?
Well, obviously, talking heads will say, oh, with Dobula, in 35 years we've gained independence. We've even split the dictionary of resilience in half.
The dictionary brings together everything that helps people withstand prolonged pressure.
In general, bringing together what helps people means financial assistance, social support, healthcare, and security. What really helps people, I'm not even a president and I understand that, but here they've put together some dictionary and think, well, you give this dictionary to someone wounded in the war and he gets healed. By the way, there was a video, I think, last winter, I showed it to you, where Zelensky, strangely cheerful, is sitting and giggling at every word. And he told how, in the hospital he visited, someone greeted him by a soldier shaking his hand. And Zelensky, by his own account, learned that when Zelensky left, that very soldier stood up and walked. Even there, that very Olena, Zelensky's wife, was looking at him like this. You could see that she didn't understand what was going on. But here, apparently, she's already transformed herself, and now this dictionary is helping.
Communities need to maintain connections, institutions need to continue their work, and cultures need to reflect on their losses and find guidance for the future.
She loses her train of thought, meaning she reads something, looks away, and forgets what she wanted to say. She gets lost. And, well, it's understandable, because, first of all, you have to write and come up with such nonsense. Obviously, she didn't write it herself. And secondly, try to express all of that clearly and smoothly, because, well, it's honestly nonsense. I don't even know how to joke about this, because this is such complete idiocy that it would max out any potужno meter. By the way, where is it? Let's check it. The words of Zelenska and that little dog and that African-American boxer, well, it's all so powerful that soon it will tear everyone to pieces, including the country itself. And by the way, it's not me saying this, it's former Defense Minister Fedorov. He said that we are gradually losing... Well, I don't even know who he means by that. Comrades or Ukraine, but he says that Ukraine is slowly losing the war to Russia. According to him, Kiev has a few months to make a decision that could turn the situation around. At the same time, Fedorov was saying that before he was dismissed, everything was fine. He had all sorts of people like Sternenko as his advisors, Pritula, Muti. I'm not joking, that's really the person's name. These drone guys, as soon as... Yeah, and he was satisfied with everyone saying that we would drive these Russians to suicide. Russian soldiers at the front, we will bomb them. Whether they fly or not, we will bomb them. And then, suddenly, it turned out that Ukraine, he was fired, and suddenly everything changed. And without Fedorov, apparently even water won't be blessed. And now Ukraine is losing. And on top of that, he mentioned corruption. He remembered to mention corruption. We'll discuss something about that separately now. And basically, it's just that a person left the system, and apparently the system started to fall apart, because they've never seen such a perfect leader in their life. But he says that the country needs a plan to end the war. And the former minister named the main obstacles as the lack of a common vision of victory, the inability to implement innovations, and entrenched corruption. And by the way, he's been on Zelensky's team since 2019. So, apparently, until he was fired, there was no corruption at all. Patronage networks, well, apparently that's when one hand washes the other, or nepotism and the lack of political independence of state institutions. And here, Fedorov was summoned to a meeting at the SK Escarado where, apparently, she will be grilled. And in that Telegram channel I already showed you, I joke that the corrupt officials summoned the corrupt official and are asking, corrupt official, why are you a corrupt official? This is going to be very interesting. The commission had a lot of questions for Mr. Mikhail, and they wanted to get answers to them. Noted a certain representative of the Temporary Investigative Commission, this Honcharenko. And he also published a letter to Fedorov, in which it is noted that the Temporary Investigative Commission is establishing the circumstances and possible facts of violations of Ukraine's anti-corruption legislation. When making decisions, well, in short, there's a very long string of words there again, a whole chain that you don't even have to read. I get the impression that he'll either be intimidated or imprisoned, and on the other hand, he must have a thick folder of compromising material on everyone else. In short, it's such a viper's nest of friends here that you look at it and wonder, how are you all still alive together? Oh, well, soon they'll be like rats in a sack too. If we're talking zoology, then everything will be just perfect. Yeah, And Zelensky, as I told you in the last video, he proposed peace, but of course it was rejected. They say no third party can control Donbass. That's what Putin's side said in response to Zelensky's new proposal. Powerful, that's really powerful. I think it's already time. We need to make a new dictionary and publish a new little book, like when I was president for the 6th or 7th year. Today I also saw some news. Some guy was saying that if the war goes on for 10 years, but that's just idiocy in itself. Then Zelensky will be president for 10 years. What do you think about that? Well, let's finally take a look at a couple of powerful leaders, because you just can't do without them.
They voted with us by accident. And the closest ones...
Look at this military man. Look at his uniform. And that turtleneck. He just got out of the trench, immediately fixed his hair, brushed his eyebrows, his mustache. I'm just joking. Yeah, always a pass into the underwear. And his beard and smoothed out his uniform. In short, the guy looks great, like a fighter from the front line.
Put it this way, without missing or trimming the mustache.
But what a voice this man has. You can just talk like this. Just like that.
Which specialties are the most difficult today? Sitting 24/7, soldering drones.
Soldering drones is the most difficult specialty. I would like to see real frontline soldiers who would want to meet this guy and ask him about the most difficult specialties. Well, they keep talking, but they don't even realize that soldering drones is the most difficult thing. The most difficult.
Developing some new technological solutions is a very difficult job.
Very difficult, yes. But running around through the tree lines under the threat of those so-called commanding officers, that's not hard. But for him, it's clear that apparently that person started soldering drones a long time ago. And there's another character like that.
The situation is like this.
But there's another drone operator. They only show these drone operators. But the assault troops, the defenders, those who sit in the trenches, just regular infantry soldiers, they don't show. They show those guys who are sitting somewhere near Kyiv or not near Kyiv, but basically they've never been on the front line and they talk about how they're doing this and that here.
Sooner or later, everyone will have to fight. And the question is, will you come in inexperienced and unprepared and end up wherever you end up? Or will you come already prepared, trained, and understand what job you will be doing? Our team is very friendly. Everyone communicates with each other.
This is that photo, but what is it? What is this anyway? At first it seems strange to me. Their hands are joined together in a weird way. Okay.
In a positive mood.
Mood? Well, yeah, a positive attitude. It's clear they have a positive attitude because they're not doing anything. But for real people, of course. For real soldiers. Well, that's how it is. Juan and I aren't saying goodbye to you. We're saying see you later. Until next time. Bye, everyone.
But coming back to the question, the money is running out. It's like in the Soviet Union. It didn't help anyone. Could it have saved the Soviet Union? No, because the money ran out. So basically, they're following the same path.